Good evening, everybody. And I just want to say welcome. I kind of feel like welcome to the author's hour. Welcome to our next interview. I'm Gloria Coppola, working with heart-centered entrepreneurs, spiritual beings, and those who have inspirational messages for a world in a time that we need it more than ever. And I'm the publisher from Powerful Potential and Purpose. Today, our author is, oh God, let me tell you something. When she gave me the title, I was blown away. First of all, I didn't know where she was going with it, but I was blown away. And her title of her book coming out in Breakthrough Wisdom of the Soul with all these short stories is Go Ahead and Kill Me. So she's going to be talking about that in a little bit. But I want to invite you all to ask questions, to share comments, and just enjoy our next guest. So I'm going to bring on Siobhan Morse. Hello, Siobhan.
Hi, how are you today? Thank you so much for having me, Gloria.
I'm really excited. You know, you're a fascinating woman, first and foremost, because first of all, your story is really intriguing. It's suspenseful. It's a thriller. And yet what you do now as a result of everything in your life, I mean, you research things, you volunteer, you're doing opioid crisis programs, you work for Fortune 500 company. You're a Wonder Woman.
Thank you. I don't know about that, but I'm just so blessed and grateful to have the opportunity to make a difference. So thank you.
And you are definitely making a difference. When I was writing up your thing here that you're an opioid, you conduct opioid crisis programs. I don't know if you knew this, and it caught my attention, but my second husband, my soulmate, was an opioid addict.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and as much as he tried for years and years and years to get off the opioids, it was when he got off the opioids that he actually died because of some other factors that played into it all. But, and then we had one of our other authors, I don't know if you read her book, Dora Sherry, Reflections of an Angel. She is 38 years out of, off of opioids recently this year when she actually was writing her story, just like, you're writing your story and things that are happening for you. So it has been such a blessing to work with all these writers and to see how we're all linked together in some way. So I want to personally thank you for helping those that have addictions to opioids. And you had mentioned that September is National Recovery Month.
It is.
And you won an award. Tell us about it.
So I did. It was a complete surprise. I was invited to participate in a webinar for the White House with the Office of National Drug Control Policy. And as the director of the ONDCP was speaking at the end, I was preparing to do my part, and I heard my name, and he was holding up a plaque saying that I had received a presidential proclamation just acknowledging my service and my contribution to recovery. So just incredibly humbled and honored to have received that. And yeah, National Recovery Month is a really big deal, and anything I can do to help break the stigma and help people change their lives. I think that's really what I'm here to do.
Well, give this lady big congratulations, because she's in recovery herself, and sometimes, people see what we're doing now, right, Siobhan, and they don't realize what we've been through. And I have to tell you, in your story, Go Ahead and Kill Me, girlfriend, this woman can write. She can tell a story, and I was right there with her, and it's really quite compelling is not even a strong enough word for what you have gifted the world with your story.
Thank you. Again, it's so funny. It's just amazing that I lived through it. I think about it, and there are so many people that I was out there with that didn't make it, that either didn't get back or just didn't survive. And everybody has a backstory. It may not look like the desperation of mine, but everybody has a backstory, and we all have something that we survived and that we're recovering from. And so, I hope it just speaks to people and helps move them forward in their journeys, because actually, Gloria, this process has been so amazing for me, and I feel like it's really helped me move forward in mine as well.
It's quite the intense story, and I was wondering, how did you feel not only writing it, but now you're going to be sharing it with the world because it's coming out October 10th.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of different emotions that happen while you were writing and now knowing that it's going out there?
Yeah, so it is fairly intense. That's true. And so, you asked me, is your company going to be okay with this? And, I thought about it for a second. I'm like, you know what? If they're not, I think I'm with the wrong company, because where I've been and what happened to me is a lot of what helps motivate me to do the work that I do. Right. And then I make some phone calls. So, my parents have passed, but I have a brother and a sister who may not have realized the depth or the detail. And I had to call them. I shared the story with them ahead of time and just said, so you need to know I'm okay. I've done the work. I've worked on the trauma pieces, etc. But I wanted you to, just get a heads up that this was coming. And so, yeah, I've had to give that a little bit of thought for sure.
Yeah, it takes a great amount of courage to not only share a story, but to share something that is so deeply personal, and you really do get raw and vulnerable. Okay, you do. And then, going through the process, I know this with all the authors, it's a healing process, don't you think?
So, I'm going to give you the shout out here, because my entire life, even as a little girl, I knew I wanted to write. And I can't tell you how many things have gone to either, earlier into the trash can, or have been deleted as I, moved to computers over time. But you gave me some guidance, early on. And because when I first heard 3,500 words, I said, no way, I'll never be able to write that. And then you asked me some basic, simple questions. And so it just began to flow. Then you told me, take me there. I want to feel it, taste it, touch it with you. And that opened a whole window, for me. And then you said, ask yourself, is this important? And I was able to, I hope, right? Bring it down, distill it down to what we have, and to what I really hope is a story that that offers other people hope, the opportunity to move beyond whatever their past held for them, because it's not now.
It's not that right. So I want to actually read something here, because you talked about how, I said, I want to touch it, feel it, taste it, bring me there. So the viewing, get ready. Go ahead and kill me. I'm naked on the athletic field, standing next to one of those portable buildings on the campus of an elementary school somewhere around midnight. There is a man in front of me waving a machete and speaking to me in Spanish. I reach for the cigarettes in his front shirt pocket and I say, go ahead, kill me. In that moment, I never ever would have believed that my life would turn out so differently. Well, girl, you pulled me right in to want to read the rest of it, but I don't have to. In that moment when you said, and I could kind of just see you, Miss Sassy over there, probably me taken too somewhere. What's one word that you can describe that you felt in that moment when you said those words, go ahead and kill me?
When you asked, the first word that came to mind was just exhausted. Like, just, you say I was sassy. I wasn't sassy. I was just tired. I just, what? Take me out of my misery. Like, just do it. Go ahead, kill me. I will say I was terrified, but I wasn't terrified of dying. I was simply terrified in general of the machete, right? And I was just go ahead. So I think exhausted is the word.
Yeah. And, those that read the story, you said you were exhausted. Just give them a little brief synopsis of what were you exhausted about in your life?
So, that if you understand these next two words, you'll know exactly what I mean. That eternal exhaustion, that feeling that you just don't have anything left in you. And it's not really about like being a physical tired or even an emotional tired. It's about, and it's not surrender. It's truly just waving this white flag saying, I've got nothing. I've got nothing. And I think what I was the most exhausted from was just that, even though I didn't hear necessarily words, but the feelings and that internal dialogue, you know, that running tape in the background that just, I was working.
What was that internal dialogue saying to you?
So I later discovered the exact words, right? But at the time, it was just this feeling of hopeless. Later, work, you know, as I began my recovery journey, I realized that what it was saying was, everybody's watching and you're doing it wrong, right? And so here I am wanting everyone to see me, yet I'm doing it wrong. And it was this constant push pull of those two concepts. Just I think is what the most exhausting thing. Like, I would just never be good enough. I give up.
So if you just joined us, we are talking to one of our collaborative authors for the new book coming out. And she was a heroin addict, and now she's a heroine. So she went from heroin to heroin, and I love that. And she's got a powerful and compelling story. It's suspenseful. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. And she just announced here, too, that she actually won a presidential award for the work she's doing for the opioid crisis programs. And I'm really proud of you, Siobhan.
Thank
So
you.
I want to know, have you ever been homeless?
I'm sorry. Well, you know, homeless. Yes. So that is a big piece of that story. It's kind of the setting of the story. I did spend, it's so hard to know the exact amount of time because I know exactly when I left. I'm not quite sure when it happened, but I spent more or less 8 to 10 years living on the streets of Miami, homeless.
Wow, 8 to 10 years.
Yeah. So, and you know, there's a pretty intense lifestyle that goes with that. And a lot of things happen. You know, obviously the story is one of those things that happens when you're living that lifestyle. And I guess the key takeaway is, it doesn't, you know, it honestly, it doesn't matter where you've been. You just need to have, you don't even have to know exactly where you're going. You need to, if you can have a general idea where you want to get to, I promise you can get there from here, wherever, you know?
So what do you think, or when do you remember, like, what was the moment when something obviously always happens in our lives to make a bigger decision, okay? And I think you even used the term divine intelligence in your
Yes.
story. So you went from being a streetwalker and a heroin addict, and now you're working for Fortune 500 companies helping those with addictions. Talk about a turnaround. What happened? How did you turn around?
Well, so, you know, it's never just one thing. You know, the journey began for all the wrong reasons. I didn't want to go to prison, you know, and it wasn't that I committed any major crimes. I just had been in front of the same judge so many times for possession charges, you know, having my drugs on me, and violated probation so many times that he was like, you know what, I give up. Let me just put you away for long enough that I can keep you safe. And so I ran away to see if I could do something a little more fitting with my lifestyle, let's say, right, rather than prison. But in that process, you know, you mentioned divine intelligence. As I began to, you know, like truly wake up, literally begin to see the world around me from in a totally new lens and understand that there was something that created all of that, like everything that I need. And it kept me alive.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that is a big part of what that divine intelligence is.
Hmm. You know, there's a lot of people right now struggling with different, well, we were all struggling with crisis right now, but different addictions. And you work with people every single day. What is some of the best advice that you give to those that want to turn their life around?
You know, Gloria, right now with everything that's going on, it's not just addictions, right? It's depression, it's anxiety. You know, we have these fears showing up. We don't understand where they came from. And it's very unsettling. It's very disconcerting. And it may not be full-blown addiction. It might just be like, wow, you know, that bottle of wine went a lot faster than it probably should have, right? So I think the biggest thing I would say, you know, in all of it is that we need to, you know, kind of take care of ourselves. We need to, we're the one we've got, right? At the end of the day. And really beginning, no matter how it, to start that conversation with yourself that lets you know maybe you're there for yourself, you know, to begin whatever it takes to begin caring for ourselves. You know, for some of us, that's just get out of the house and go for a nice long walk. You know, for others, that might look like you're making a phone call, reaching out for either friendship or professional help. And, you know, I needed professional help, and there's no shame in that. And, you know, how humbled am I, you know, I'll be able to be on the side of offering. But being able to recognize that you need help is probably one of the biggest things, you know. So I would say, you know, being kind and gentle to yourself and giving yourself, if you need help or if you think you might need help, giving yourself the help that you need.
You know, earlier we had one of your co-authors as well talk about her story, Carrie Powell, and she brought up the self-care, the self-love, the forgiveness as well. And I think that is so important in any type of recovery that we go through.
Yeah, so, you know, for me, so interesting, that concept of forgiveness. At first, I really couldn't face it because there was so much. And what's so interesting is the things that I needed the most forgiveness on, or self-forgiveness, the things I was most ashamed of, right, weren't the things I did, but they were the things that happened to me. And that's where I needed the most work. I needed to do the most self-love, be the most self-loving, if that makes sense. And, you know, it was almost like forgiving myself for just having been there, you know, and began this journey towards saying, wait a minute, I don't think that was really my fault. But it was through that self-love and forgiveness that I was able to get there, you know, and again, through some really loving, patient people, not always, you know, who were just friends and I was able to talk to.
I love one of the parts in here that you wrote about. It's like you were describing heroin. Heroin is the warm embrace, complete with the murmur of sweet, shushing sounds you've always needed so badly. It's like God himself is hugging you, which is good because outside of heroin, I'm pretty sure God hates me.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, I had a, you know, as we say, I had a God of my misunderstanding. My childhood God was unforgiving. My childhood God was vindictive, revengeful. You know, he was mean. In fact, to be honest, he was exactly who I was when I did heroin, right? And I needed to. That's, you know, part of also where that divine intelligence concept comes in. I needed to be able to create a God or something that loved me and that could teach me how to love myself, you know, and that's a journey I'm still on.
You have another thing in your story that I also really loved that you addressed. We all sell out sometimes. Sometimes we sell our values or beliefs. You sold your body, not just for money. You know, it's like you went into this whole thing about selling out. Can you elaborate on that? Because I think that's so important.
You know, so again, like back to the whole shame concept, what's so interesting is that it's usually the shameful behaviors, right? The shame that we have from certain behaviors that keep us repeating those behaviors that we're ashamed of. It creates this cycle, this little hamster wheel that we can't get off of. And so that plays really into that, because until we break that cycle, right, we're not going to move past it. So that's the selling out piece. You know, whether you sold out, you know, and it looked like maybe you had an affair, or maybe you just ate that whole chocolate cake and you didn't mean to, right? Or whatever. Like, we have, it's not always, you know what, Gloria, I don't think it's always the one big thing. I think that so many of us, it's this little pile of little things that happens, that we begin this conversation in our head, and we feed the conversation that says, look, you did it wrong again. Look at that. Are you going to get it? And we want to say, oh, that's my mom talking, or that's somebody else, but it's not. It's you. Honestly, it's you right now. And I think the way we reclaim, right? We stop, we're never going to be perfect. Like, that's not even conversation, but the way that we begin to sort of reclaim some of this sellouts, or rise above some of that shame, is just to say, you know what, that's stuff that happened, and I can't change that. I can't uneat that. I can't not have had that affair.
Right.
What I can do is be a different person today, and I can begin by forgiving myself for that, and showing the same compassion that I would show to my best friend to myself.
I like that.
That is so much of what self-love is. Like, I don't know how to even start self-love for me, but if I can think about how, like, my best friend loves, or how my dog loves me, right, then I get an idea of what it really means to love myself.
Wow. I don't want to give away all your story, because you have some really powerful insights in here. Dora says, amen. Dora is who I mentioned earlier, who wrote Reflections of an Angel, also recovered from a 38-year opioid addiction. So I'm sure she can relate a lot with what you're talking about. And I just want to thank you and all the authors that contributed, because I don't think people realize the impact that words have, that can actually change somebody's life, which can change the world. And to be courageous enough to put it down in words, because I know everyone that I worked with either cried, or got scared, or all of the above, right, at some point in time.
Yeah.
And yet you didn't give up. And your story really is a powerful one about not giving up.
Thank you. Yeah. So that is definitely probably my favorite hashtag. Hashtag never give up. And I think for me, it's very possible that the drugs are what kept me alive long enough, because they kept that story, they kept me numb enough so that the words in my head didn't hurt so bad. That because I was able to live through that, right?
That's interesting. I get that.
Yeah, I lived long enough to get to, because we talked about this. I was not young. Well, I was in my 30s out there on the street. I didn't make this life change until 40. And so, yeah. And so it kept me alive long enough, right? Not saying this is a good way to do that at all. But, inside of, again, self-forgiveness, self-love, and just being okay with my journey, it's how I got here. And where I get to be now is a pretty amazing place.
You write in your story towards the end, how intimidating there is greatness in me. How terrifying I could live big enough to fully express this greatness in me. Tell people where you are now and what you're doing, because you are doing great things.
Oh, that's so kind of you. Thank you. So I did just actually create a website called greatnessyou.life. And so what I realized is that divine intelligence wasn't necessarily out there, but it was in here, and leaning into that, living into that. What a terrifying thought. I mean, if I really lean into that, I get tearful and nervous, and I can feel the fear coming, because at the same time as how wonderful that is, how scary that is. But some of the wonderful things that I get in my life, some of the greatness in my life right now is, again, I'm, despite all of the background, I'm able to be part of an amazing Fortune 500 company, one of the voted top 100 places to work in America. I'm able to impact thousands of lives and help thousands of people through the work I do there. I am competitive masters athlete who is traditionally top 5% in my age group in the world. For everything that I did, and you talk about this greatness that's not me, right? Being in me. After everything I did to my body, living out there, and everything that happened to me, to be able to coax it, to perform like that, right? That's definitely something bigger than I. That's something divine working through me. I just have this beautiful life. I was able to make peace with both my parents before they passed, and literally be there for them, holding their hand, heart best things I ever did. And I have wonderful friends in my life. And today, I get to make choices. I have the freedom to choose. And that is probably the most miraculous thing.
Absolutely. Well, make sure you guys pick up Breakthrough, Wisdom of the Soul on October 10th to read more about Siobhan and all these other wonderful authors, because I tell you, she is going to pull you into her story. She is going to take you on a journey that you are going to feel like you are actually sashaying down the streets with her and really feel her experience, which is amazing. Dora says she's learning not to be so afraid of her fears. Facing them is empowering and freeing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dora.
And even when you said those words, go ahead and kill me, we talked about how disempowered he got, your rapist, how disempowered, because it was like he thought you weren't afraid because you didn't care.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was, it was probably the worst thing that I could have done. But as it turned out, that divine intelligence, that power greater than me, was holding me in the palm of his hand and kept me safe, kept me safe and alive. So.
Well, we're glad you're safe, alive, and here now helping other people. So everybody give this woman some love and kudos and congratulations for winning this award, helping, the presidential project on stopping opioids. I mean, she's out there. She's a great advocate. And do you see yourself becoming a public speaker and doing more out there?
So I actually do a lot of, I've done, so through my research in the addiction sciences, I've done worldwide presentations and I do a lot of public speaking. I'm just now getting to a place where I'm able to, and that's what I was able to do with that webinar, to weave more personal experience into the professional talks. But yeah, I love doing that. Whatever I'm called to do to help move us out of this crisis, to help people transform their lives. That's really where I want to be. I have the willingness, and I just want to be part of the solution, if that makes sense. But yeah.
And I'm glad you're out there, because the opioid crisis is huge. And like I said in the beginning, I lost my spouse, many other people have. And for those of you that are moving through it, surviving, thriving, and helping others, and I wish you were all around 20 years ago to help the loved one in my life, So you saved one person's life because of your story.
I hope
you served your purpose.
Yes. Thank you so much. That's amazing. Yes.
So thank you for joining us, and thank you those of you that have been watching, and send this woman some love and hearts. And we will be back this week with more author interviews, Breakthrough. And again, mark your calendar, because October 10th is the Breakthrough Day.
So excited. Thank you.
Much love for you.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you, Dora. Bye-bye.